Good morning, dear students. Once again, welcome back. Hope all of you will be fine. I hope you all have completed your homework, which I had given in the last video. This exercise and the reading of this reading of this page of lesson number 11. Okay. Today also we will be continuing the same chapter. Okay. Before starting our today's class, once we will revise our previous work, what we read that day. Kachi, a young girl from Nepal, goes to the forest with her grandmother and her brother in search of the limi plant. Limi is a special plant. Why it is special? Because of its medicinal properties. It has white flowers and shiny green leaves. Limi plant is good for cold, cough and aching bones. Kachi, grandmother and Daju, they three went to the forest in search of the limi plant, but they did not know whether there were any limi plants left. After crossing the river, they walked through the sal forest and a bamboo thicket, but they did not find the limi there. When they could not find the limi plant, what did they do next? They climbed higher and came to a place where water falls from a high place to a low place rushed over the rocks. They stopped there for a drink. They stopped so that they could drink some water. Where they stopped for water, Kachi looked carefully at all the beauty in that wet and green place. She also looked for the limi plant, but she did not find them near the waterfall. They kept on moving and decided to climb higher where no grass grew, only moss and small herbs beneath the tall trees. Okay, so now next what happened, we will read it. Let's start with today's class. Today we will be continuing with page number 118. Kachi looked all around that green and mossy place for the white flowers of the limi plant. So after reaching the green and the mossy place where they could see only the moss and the herbs, Kachi looked all around that place for the white flowers of the limi plant. But what happened? She did not find them there. Then they came to the highest place where no trees grew and white snow lay on the stony ground. So when they could not find the limi plant in the mossy place, then they came to the highest place. There were no trees, only white snow on the stony ground. Okay, beta, when they could not find the limi plant in the mossy place, then they decided to come to the highest place. There were no trees, only white snow on the stony ground. Kachi looked carefully around that white and stony place to find the cherry flowers of the limi, but she found none there. So beta, when Kachi looks around that white stony place to find the limi plant, she did not find there also. Okay beta, after reaching to the highest place, Kachi looked carefully around that white and stony place, but she did not find there also. Now children, they walked carefully back down the steep path through an oak forest. Kachi looked up at the trees and at the blue sky. The forest world was so wide. So beta, when they could not find the limi plant in the white and stony place where there was snow and there were lots of stones, they started walking down. So children, the mountains are steep. So they walked carefully back down the steep path. Steep path, a road that slopes up or down sharply. So the path was steep and they were moving down. While moving down, what Kachi did, Kachi looked up. There were trees and there was blue sky when they were passing through the oak forest. Oak is a kind of large tree. What is oak, beta? Oak is a kind of large tree, and Kachi feels that forest world was so wide, so big. What she felt? She feels that the forest world was so wide, so big. Then there was a quick movement and a squirrel leapt down. The forest world was so full of life. So now, suddenly, what happened? There was a quick movement. Something started to move. What did Kachi notice, beta? She saw that squirrel leapt down, or a squirrel made a big jump. What she noticed, beta? She saw that a squirrel leapt down, or a squirrel made a big jump. And the forest world was so full of life. And the forest world was so full of life. Then next, she looked down at the place where it had disappeared. It was a tangle, tiny plants and vines, a small garden. The forest had so many trees. So, beta, she looked down at the place where it had disappeared, and what did she see? It was a tangle of tiny plants and vines. What did she see? It was a tangle of tiny plants and vines. When she looked down, what did she see? It was a tangle. Tangle means a jumble of things. Means, beta, there were many things. There were small plants and vines. Achha, okay, children, what are vines? Vines are also a type of plant with very thin stem. With very thin stem means the stem is not woody. The stem is very thin. Okay, so when she looked down, she see it was a tangle of tiny plants and vines, a small garden, and the forest had so many trees. It had so many trees. Then next, then she looked again at her feet. Kachi saw a mass of white starry flowers and smelt the lovely scent. It must be the limi. Grandmother, Daju, she called. Then she looked again at her feet, and what did she see with her? Kachi saw a mass of white starry flowers. Mass means a large quantity of something. So she saw a mass of white starry flowers and smelt the lovely scent. It must be the limi. She smelt and said it must be the limi. Grandmother Daju, she called. After she felt it must be the limi, she called her grandmother and her brother. So she called grandmother and Daju. Then come to the next page, page number 119. Come quickly, they came. It was indeed the limi. So, beta, when Kachi called grandmother and her brother, come quickly. And when they saw the plant, the flowers, it was the limi plant. It was the limi plant. Then next, what they are saying, beta? We must notice where it grows, said Daju as he drew a picture of the flower in his notebook. What Daju said? We must notice the place where this limi plant grows while drawing the picture in notebook. We must, what he said, beta? We must notice the place where this limi plant grows while drawing the picture in notebook. As you can see in this picture, he is making a drawing. Yeah. So he said, we must notice the place where this lily plant grows while drawing the picture in his notebook. Then next, we must not disturb it, for every plant is precious. If we move it, it may die. If we move it, it may die. So Daju says we must not disturb this plant because every plant is precious. Every plant is precious. Precious means great use or value, means a valuable thing. Precious means a valuable thing. So he says we must not disturb this plant because every plant is precious. If we move, it may die. Nana beta, he says if we move, it may die. I will come back after the flowering and collect some seeds for planting. Maybe our mountains will again have the sweet smell of the limi, finished Daju. He says we'll come back after the flowering, after the season, when it has lots of flowers, and will collect some seed for planting in our place. And maybe our mountains will again have the sweet smell of the limi. Now Daju finished his words. Then the swallows were singing in white sweeps in the valley as they neared home. So when they were coming back, the swallows, which is a flying birds, swallows which is a flying birds, they were moving in a large circle. When they were coming back, the swallows were moving in a large circle. Daju carried grandmother's umbrella and his bag. Grandmother carried a spray of red flowers and Kachi carried a head full of forest memories. So beta, while returning home, what they were carrying, Daju was carrying grandmother's umbrella and his bag. What he was carrying beta? He was carrying his grandmother's umbrella and his bag. Grandmother carrying a spray of red flowers. A spray of red flowers means a small branch with red flowers. A small branch having the red flowers. So she was carrying a spray of red flowers and Kanchi carrying a head full of forest memories. Whatever she had seen in the forest, all she was carrying in her head as a forest memories. Then next, this is just a part of what Kachi sees and learns in forest that day. She learns about the special uses of plants and how poor villagers are often paid very little money to collect seeds, roots, flowers and leaves for rich business people who sell them at high prices. To be a part of Kachi's day in the forest, read her full story in Kachi's Quest. So children, this story that we have read in this chapter is just a small what Kachi sees in the forest, and she learns about the special uses of the plants, and she also learns how the poor villagers are often paid very little money to collect seeds, roots, flowers and leaves for rich people and who sell them at high prices. And to be a part of Akachi's day in the forest, if you want to read the full story, you can read her full story in Kachi's Quest. Okay, you can read in the story Kachi's Quest. Okay, so beta, this was the chapter Saving the Limi, and what we learned from this chapter, we learned how to protect our environment, why it is important to protect different plants and species. Okay, what we learned how to protect our environment, why it is important to protect different plants and species. Okay, beta. So this chapter is over. Saving the Lemmy. Here we complete this chapter, saving the Lemmy. Okay, beta. So that's it for today's class. In next video, we will complete our exercise portion of this chapter. And for today, your homework is to read this chapter once again. Okay, do the reading of this chapter in homework. See you in the next video. Till then, take care. Thank you.